can use this Snelgrove process to do a lot of different kinds of things. So what I'm going to present tonight is just one aspect of how you can use it. And again, it's the specifics goal to get me past my swarm season because of what I do for a living. With that in mind, and before I started, just to show you what a Snelgrove board is, this is a Snelgrove board, okay? One end, right here, has no doors on it. The other three sides each have upper doors and lower doors. So you have a lower door and an upper door. And I will talk in my presentation about how you manipulate those doors during the use of this technique. Everybody gets confused and gets lost in it and doesn't get it, and that's all right, because at the end, I will go over it again with you as many times as necessary to make you comfortable in understanding what I'm trying to portray. It's not difficult, it's just different than whatever we do. So with that intro, I'll see if I can't get us set up to move forward on this. Let's see. I think this is the one I want to share. Is that the right one? You're getting just the blue screen?
Yep, that's it. We've got it.
Okay, very good. All right. So the Snelgrove process, how to prevent a swarm, make a new queen, and make a honey crop. Because you know that every year when your hive or my hive swarms, that existing queen leaves with about 2/3 of the bees in that hive, and they go start a new hive, and the original hive makes a new queen, and they start growing up, but they miss the nectar flow, so you don't get a honey crop out of that hive that year. So stopping a swarm for our purposes, because we have at least in Alexander, we have generally about a 6 to 8 week nectar flow. So if a hive is not ready to go at the start of the nectar flow, then you're compromising your ability to make a honey crop. Let's see. This picture on the Snelgrove book, it's control prevention. That is not Snelgrove. Just in case some people think that that this picture is actually him, and I did do enough research to find out that is not L.E. Snelgrove. Snelgrove method is nothing particularly unique about it. It does resemble the Damare method. The key differences in the Damare method and the Snelgrove method is that in the Damare method, you have to set up another hive. You have to have a bottom board. You have to have, inner covers, telescoping covers. You got to have everything to make a new hive. In the Snelgrove process, all you have to have is a queen excluder, which we all have, and a Snelgrove board. You don't have to set up a new hive. You can do it right in place. Now, there are some issues that you have to consider before you think about doing this Snelgrove process. And the first one is, where are your hives located? If your hives are located so accessing them is a challenge, then you may not want to, try to go with the Snelgrove process. Wow. Let's talk about this. There's all sorts of literature out there written about the Snelgrove process. Here's one, Jerry Borger. This is the 2018 American Bee Journal. Let's see. As you can see, everybody's been writing about it for a long time. So there's nothing that's particularly new about it. Now, each one of these write-ups is not about what I do. So again, it's something that can be used for a number of different uses. Here's one that was Randy Oliver, that we all have heard of out in California. He uses them for his process. So what am I going to try to teach you tonight? I'm going to try to teach you how to set up the hive configuration for a Snelgrove. I've developed a spreadsheet that is quite long. It's an automatically calculating spreadsheet. I'm going to show it to you first, and then I'm going to break it down into thirds and walk you through each third of it so you'll know what's going on. And by the way, if at the end of this presentation and you decide you want that spreadsheet, just get in touch with me. I'll be glad to give it to you. I don't try to attach any royalties or get any kind of compensation or protectiveness. If in the process of doing this presentation, I'm able to make you into a better beekeeper than me, then I have done something beneficial. The other part I'll cover at the end of this presentation is how to disassemble the hive configuration that you set up for the Snelgrove. So let's get started. Here are the three pieces of equipment that you're going to need. One is your queen excluder. The other is the Snelgrove board. And then you're going to have at least one box that has drawn comb in it. Not foundation, but drawn comb. And if you're in an 8-frame hive, you've got to have 7 frames of drawn comb. If you're in 10-frame hive, you got to have 9. And I'll get into the whys about that. But this is all you need. You need a box, with your drawn comb, your queen excluder, and your Snelgrove board. This is my friend Richard Whitlow. Richard does not know that there is protective clothing available to him. He chooses not to do that. Here he has taken a hive in early spring. He's taken off the top 2 boxes. We're down in the bottom box, and he's looking for the queen. We've already been through the other 2 boxes, which you can see kind of behind his arm, okay? And he's going through and trying to find the queen because that's step 1 in our process. And I got a little video.
Now we have to put the queen back in. And let's see, here she is over here. And so, did you know that queens have a handle?
No.
Sure. I like them to, and there's the handle right there. The wings are the handle. See, it's when you pick them up by the wings, it doesn't hurt them at all. That's not squeezing their abdomen. It's easy to pick them up. It's easy to put them down. If you want to put them down on something, you just go like this and they'll stand. Here's how you hold a queen bee. You hold a queen bee by the thorax. Let her stand on your finger and then just hold her. You can walk around the bee yard. You can go to your truck. You can hold her like this. She's able to breathe. You're not hurting her abdomen. You're not squeezing her too hard and damage your organs. And then if you want to pick her up and put her back in the hive, there's her handle right there. You just kind of squeeze your fingers together. And if you want to put her back in the hive, you just show her the way. Let her look down in there like that, and then let her go. She'll go right down.
So now you see that we've taken that box that I was talking about. My equipment is 8-frame equipment, and it's got 7 frames of drawn comb in there, okay? And Richard is getting ready, or that's actually me, getting ready to pull the frame out of our quiet box, which is where we store queens when we're, working. We put them in there, they're safe, they can't get damaged. And if you come out to SHP and work with us, we'll teach you more about how to use a quiet box. But anyway, we're taking that frame and we put this box on the very bottom box on the hive. And we're going to add that queen with the bees that are on that frame into that box and nothing else. We're not going to give them any food. We're not going to give her any frames of cap brood. We're not going to do anything except the frame that she's on. That's what gets put in that bottom box. Okay. Then we put our queen excluder in there. We do not want her traveling up through the hive. So we put the queen excluder. Other bees can go down and visit with her, or if there are other bees in there, they can go up into the hive. But that keeps her in that box. And then the additional thing we're going to do, the lighter color boxes in my hives are honey supers. And so this is a honey super on the bottom right-hand side that we're putting on top of the queen excluder. Now, the reason we do that is this setup is going to be in place for several weeks. And the queen is in that bottom box. She's laying brood. And as soon as we set this hive up, all of the foraging bees from the remainder of the hive will join her down there. Those foraging bees are going to go out, and if a nectar flow starts, they're going to collect nectar, and you got to give them a place to put the nectar, which is where they'll make honey. Okay, so it's really pretty straightforward. So you got the box with the queen excluder, and then a honey super. Now, the honey super, I oftentimes use this process to make new honey frames. Okay, I put in foundation a lot of times. That also gives the bees more to do. I mean, we've got a small box down there. The queens start raising bees. Nurse bees are born. They need something to do. They like to draw wax when they're young. So we give them plenty of opportunities to draw wax. You could put, if you have honey frames that you can use that are drawn out, you could put up there and they'll store honey and make a honey crop for you. And here, just to show you that, you know, there's many different kinds of Snelgrove boards out there. Some people call them double screen boards. They're, you know, there's a lot of different ways that you configure this. The main thing that you're trying to do is you're trying to let the odor from the hive below and the heat from the hive below travel up through the hive and provide warmth to everything that is above it. And you'll see where that pays off in a little bit.
Hey, Parks?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to ask, is there, what triggers this, you know, gets you in motion on this? Is it a date? Is it a pattern of weather, or what is it exactly?
Well, actually, you can do it by a calendar. In other words, if you know when your nectar flow starts and when your swarm season are, you can do it on a calendar. It is best if you do it when you've gone in your hive and you found a queen cell, or you find other evidence that the hive is preparing to swarm. You know, ideally, if you can find it when they have just made a queen cell, that's the perfect time. That's when it works pretty much flawlessly every time. But I've sometimes had to go out there, and if your hives are anything like mine, like last year we had a real warm period. I had hives that started making queen cells. I went in and I set up the Snelgrove board. Then it got real cold. So the bees tore down those queen cells. I had a Snelgrove board set up configuration to allow that process to work, but it stayed cold for so long that I had to dismantle it and come back in and approach it again from a different way. So it's tricky sometimes, but the key parameter that you're looking for is signs that your hive is about to swarm. And if you have hive scales, there are ways that you can look at the weight changes in the hive and get some indication that they're preparing to swarm. That's a whole nother topic that I'll try to stay away from for the moment. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, but I have a follow on now. Is
Okay.
When you find these queen cells, are you relocating the frames that they're on into other hives, or no?
No. As I said, the only thing we're going to do is take the queen on the frame that she's in, and we're going to put her in that bottom box with the drawn comb.
Okay,
That is the only movement. Everything else stays exactly the same.
so the queen cells will be above.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, great.
Okay. So here we assemble the remainder of it. In other words, we've got the bottom box with the queen in it. We've got a queen excluder, which you can see it. Then we got a honey super. Then we got a Snelgrove board. And then we got the 3 boxes from the original hive configuration. Now I've taken a frame of drawn comb and put it in place of the frame that we took the queen out of, okay? So I have 8 frames in each of those dark boxes on top, okay? And if I have a queen cell, more than likely that queen cell is going to be on the, the bottom of that top box. So, and if I've got a queen cell there, I'm really, really happy. So that's how I get it set up. So now you're ready, except this won't work. And I'll tell you why it won't work. And I tried this 2 years in a row before I realized what my mistake was. You'll notice on the bottom of this stack of hive bodies, I've got one 8-frame medium hive body. So I'm going to show you in the instructions. If you go down and you look at item B there, it says a new deep box of combs is placed on the old floor. And I didn't use deeps, I used mediums. And the 2 years that I tried it, by putting mediums down there, there was not enough space for the queen to live in. And within 3 or 4 days, they swarmed. So I'm like, either they lied to me or this process is not working, or, I didn't know what was going on. And it was the fact that I did not catch that they're talking about deep boxes. So let's look at the difference between a deep box, okay? Now these are deep boxes. One's a 10 frame, and at the top is a deep box. Both, they're 10 framers. You can look at the volume of a 10 frame deep, which the significance is back in the 30s, most all of the equipment they were using at that time was 10 frame hive bodies, and they were all deep hive bodies. Mediums hadn't come into vogue yet. The second one shows a medium, okay, an 8 frame medium, okay, and it's only 24 liters of space. Well, that's not enough. If you look at 2 8 frame mediums, it's 48.9 liters, which is a little bit more than a 10 frame deep. So if you want the Snelgrove process to work, you got to put 2 boxes in that bottom configuration below the queen excluder. Again, I put the queen in the very bottom box with drawn comb. Ideally, if I have plenty of drawn comb to spare, the second box on the bottom will also be drawn comb. If I don't, of the 6 frames up there, the 8 frames up there in that second box, I could put in, 8 or 6 or, 4 frames of foundation, and it would probably work out all right. I did it 1 year with, I think it was 6 frames of foundation, and the bees drew it out, and everything worked fine. But it took me 2 years to realize that I wasn't paying attention to the fact that in the 30s they used one kind of equipment, and in our current years we use a different kind of equipment.
So it doesn't sound like a single 10 frame medium would be enough volume either.
Yeah, you've got to calculate the volume in there, but I don't think it would be enough either, because you're only adding 2 more frames. Right.
So you'd have to go two of those to I wonder if there's too much space you can give them, but
when I've used this, there was 1 year where I could not get back in time that I wanted to disassemble it. And of the 2 hive bodies on the bottom, all 16 frames were wall-to-wall cap brood. And had I not gone in at the particular time that I did, they probably would have swarmed, okay? Yeah. So that would lead me to believe that 2 10 frame hive bodies would work quite well.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. So let's go and look at the spreadsheet for a minute. This just gives you an idea. Now, I'll give you the key to this spreadsheet right off the bat. You'll see at the top in the blue, it says Snellgrove board installed on Saturday, February 20th, 2021. Now go to the date column. The the days, the columns are the egg day, the Snelgrove board date, the age of the queen, the age of the worker, the day of the week, the date, and what the manipulation is. Look at the date column and look down at the bottom and you'll see it's April 15th. That's not by accident. I know that I can do this process for my purposes as early as February 20th, and technically it should work out for my purposes, okay? So again, let's just look at the columns we're talking about here. The day of the egg, in other words, I'm talking about the day that the queen lays the egg that we're going to be tracking and following, okay? The date that the next column is the date that I how many days has this Snelgrove board been on the hive? And then when the queen, emerges, then we're going to track how old is the queen. And then when the new queen starts laying eggs, we're going to track what's the age of the worker. And then just to make it easy for me, I want to track the day of the week and what day it is. The day of the week, I emphasize this because a lot of people don't realize in beekeeping that the bees really don't care that I might have a job working Monday through Friday. If they need something done on Wednesday, they need it done on Wednesday. And they don't care what my schedule is. So let's look at how we start out. On February 17th, the egg is laid by the queen, okay? On February 20th, I go out and I put the Snelgrove, I do this configuration that I just showed you, and I set up the Snelgrove process. The bees pick one of the eggs, or they pick a larva that's 1 day old, okay? So the egg is, some people say 3.5, some people say 4, I'm using 4. So they laid an egg, it took 3 years, it became a larvae, and on day 1 of the larvae, ideally, the bees will pick that egg to make a queen out of, okay? And then down on Wednesday the 24th, when the egg is 8 days old, and I've had the Snelgrove board on for 5 days, okay, I rotate the entrances, which I will show you what I'm talking about on that at the back end of this. The purpose in rotating the entrances, and I'll talk about that a little bit right now. The purpose in rotating the entrances is so that you've got a hive that has 3 boxes on the very top, and it was about to swarm. So there's a lot of capped brood in there, and that capped brood is emerging. And all of a sudden, that hive is going to start getting very, very crowded. And so you have to bleed off some of the bees from those top 3 boxes and let them join the queen down in the very bottom of the hive, okay, so that everything will continue to work well. Otherwise, you'll get overcrowded in those top 3 boxes because they're now full of brood. They got a queen that's cooking, and they'll swarm, okay? Then on day 8, no, excuse me, on day 12, which the Snelgrove board has been on 9 days now, that happened to be a Sunday, I'll rotate the entrance doors again. Now, the key point is during this, or not key point, but a key thing to pay attention to is on the 10th, 11th, and 12th days of that egg, in the development period of that egg for the new queen, that's a real sensitive time in that hive, and you need to be gentle and not jar the hive and not upset what they're doing. Rotating the Snelgrove boards, okay? We get back in here. This is the second page. We're starting out on day 13 of the egg, okay? You can go in on day 14, which the Snelgrove board is 11 days then. The egg is 14 days old, or the egg is 14 days old. It's now a queen cell, okay? We know that on the 16th day, that queen is going to emerge. So if you're really trying to make splits and nukes, the 14th day would be an ideal time to go in and harvest some of those queen cells. And I've gone in and found as many as 12 queen cells in those top 3 boxes. And I can pick 5 or 6 of them and go make nukes and have new queens, getting mated over in those nukes and not upset this process at all. It'll continue on just as it's going. On the 16th day, when the queen emerges, I will rotate the hive entrances again. And again, I'll explain this, but and the key point is after this rotation, you do not want to rotate the entrances at all ever again. The reason is if the queen flies out of one particular door and you were to rotate the entrances around so that that door is now closed, the queen would not know how to find her hive. So you don't want to mess with the doors. You want it to be so that when the queen decides to go out and do mating flights, whatever door she goes out that you've got set up, she can come back to that same door and get back into her hive. We see that down on days 21 and 22 of the egg, which the age of the queen, she's 6 or 7 days old now. She may go out on her mating flights. Nothing like a little.
1976 in Germany, these cameras revealed the bees' most intimate moments for the first time. The cloud of drones is chasing a tethered queen. The successful drone mounts and explodes semen into the queen with a popping sound that can be heard on the ground. Then, leaving his penis in the queen, he falls paralyzed to the ground and dies. In this one afternoon, the queen mates with 6 to a dozen drones and then will never mate again. She stores the semen in a special sac where it will last her entire life. For the next 2 years, she will be an egg-laying machine.
It's a little interesting diversion. So we pick back up here. The queen has gotten mated. She started laying. You can go in and you can check on J27 of the egg. Or this been that egg that became a queen she would now be 27 days as an egg. The queen's age at this time is about 12 days old. Okay, she should be laying by then. So she's going to lay an egg for a worker. So that egg, we're going to start counting how long does it take for that egg to become a foraging worker. We go down to day 30 on the egg. Okay, check for larvae. If larvae is found, and again, we're checking in the top 3 boxes. If we go in there and we find eggs and larvae, we know that we have a mated queen. We know that she is laying, and we can now begin to disassemble the hive if we want to. We don't have to do it right then and there, though. You can go beyond that. This would be the earliest that you want to do it because you don't want to upset this process until you know that you've got a laying queen. If you go in and you see no eggs and no larvae, and you don't see a fat queen in there, then you know that the process didn't work. Some people throw up their hands and say, oh, this is terrible. Other people like me, you disassemble it, you start over. You do the setup again. You find your old queen, you put her back down the bottom in 2 boxes, and you build the process up again and you go over. You do it again. If you follow this counting out, okay, 58 days after the egg was laid that was used to make the new queen, the Snelgrove board has been on 55 days. You've now got worker bees that are 32 days old. They will be out foraging. So you've got a functioning hive in the very top 3 boxes. Okay. So here's what we have: a new queen and the old hive on top, those top 3 boxes. We've got honey supers in the middle, because remember, we said we were rotating the entrances so that the bees in the top 3 boxes would go down and join the queen below, and I'll show you how that's done at the end of this. Then we've got honey supers in case there's been a honey flow, and normally in my environment there is a honey flow of sometimes. 1 year it was quite robust. Okay, then we got a queen excluder, and I've got the old queen and all the brood that she has laid in those bottom 2 boxes. So I have 2 functioning hives on 1 hive stand. So what do we do next? Well, we got to disassemble this process. So we take the top 3, to remove the original hive, which is the top 3 boxes, and it's the one that's got the new queen in it. And we take it and we set it aside. Then we remove the honey supers. Then we go down into the bottom 2 boxes where the old queen is, and we remove that old queen. You know, we look for her, we find her. If we're lucky and we marked her during the previous summer, she's much easier to find, okay? Then we take it over and we use that old queen to make a nuke. Now I've got a nuke, which in Alexandria, you can sell between, you know, if you've got an overwintered queen in a nuke with a couple of frames of brood, you can get $225 for a nuke, okay? And with your young and laying new queen, you make a new hive using all the bees from the original hive. In other words, I only stole the queen and a couple of frames of brood to make the nuke. All the foraging bees that were down in those bottom 2 boxes working with that queen and all the brood that she laid while all of this was going on is part of this new hive that I have set up. They'll accept each other right off the bat. You don't have to do any newspaper combines or anything of that nature. And the new bees that were made by your old queen are now in this box. So you got a new queen, she's laying brood. You got all the brood that was developed while she was being developed, and you haven't lost 1 day of productivity for your production hive, other than the fact that you now have a nuke that you can sell for $225. So what's the message here? When you go in your hive in the spring, and this is what you find is a frame that's got queen cells all over it, go get your Snelgrove board and play around with it and have some fun. Any questions?
Okay, so you've got 8 queen cells on that frame or somewhere near there. You're gonna let them all hatch out in the top of your hive here?
Sure. I mean, you could take them and, you know, harvest some and make some nukes if you wanted to.
Uh-huh.
You know, that brings them an interesting point. I don't know if you're aware of this, but when the bees make queen cells, they'll leave a couple of hours in between the timing of those queen cells so that the first queen that emerges, they'll have a couple of hours and sometimes even a day to evaluate, do they like that queen? If they do, they'll let her kill the other queens. If they don't like that first queen, they'll ball her and wait for the next queen to emerge and check her out. So yeah, you can do whatever you want to. I generally like to leave them with about 3 queen cells in a hive that I'm letting them make a new queen.
Okay, okay. So you're at least cutting the numbers somewhat. So there may not be as much chaos with queens killing queens.
Right, right. Now,
Okay.
let me just show you a couple of things here. The Snelgrove board comes and it has, as any other configuration, it has one end that has no doors on it. That is the end that you want to put facing the front of the hive where the original entrance is, because you never want to have doors that could allow the bees to get confused with where their original entrance is. So on this side, when I make my Snelgrove board setup, and I've got the 3 original hive boxes up here full of all the bees that have been there overwintered, and I've got the honey super and the new queen all down below hand, I will open this top door because these bees don't have a front entrance over here. I'll open this front door, okay? they will exit there. All the foraging bees will exit that top door, but they will not come back here. They will go to the original entrance down on the very bottom of the hive, which is where the queen is, and they will join the queen. Okay, so you just now given the queen, without having to do any shaking or doing anything other than set her aside, you've now given her a workforce that can help her raise bees. And as we all know, foraging bees can revert to nursing activities. Nursing bees cannot progress to foraging activities, at the snap of a hand. So those foraging bees will go down there and help the queen raise new bees. And she probably had some capped brood on the frame that was put in that hive with her to begin with. So after 4 or 5 days, or whatever my spreadsheet says, about 4 days, I think it is, I will, all of a sudden, I will want to take the bees that have now matured into foraging bees, and I can watch this exit. After a while, there will be bees that are no longer going down to the original entrance. Those are the old foraging bees. The bees that were hatched up here in this box, this is what they know as their entrance. And you'll see an increased traffic going in and out of here. So when that starts to get a little crowded up here, I will close this entrance on the top and open one on the bottom. So all the bees that flew out this morning in the top, when they come back at the end of the day, they're like, well, that door is shut. Well, hell, this one down here will do just as good. So they'll use it. That door takes them down to where the old queen is. Okay. So they will go down and join with the queen. They can get through the queen excluder. Okay. And they will join with that hive down there and help those people, those bees, harvest new nectar. After another couple of rotations, after a while, I want to stop using this side. So I will close that. Okay. Now nothing happens over here at all. Let me back up. When I closed this one and opened this so that the foraging bees could go and return and join the queen below, these bees up here all of a sudden do not have any entrance area. So I'll go over to the other side and I'll open that door. Now they will start using that entrance. Okay. And the bees that were already foraging, they will fly out this entrance and they will come back over here and they will go in the bottom and go down and join the queen. So I'm depleting the population of bees up here as I'm increasing the population of the bees below. And I'm keeping the top 3 boxes from becoming overcrowded and creating a swarm condition. And so after I've bled off and I no longer want to see any activity out of here, I can do the same thing again. I can close that door, okay? I can come over here, close this top door. Now I need to open this bottom door so that the bees left here can come back and join in here. At the end of the day, they'll like, the door we came out of this morning's closed, but well, this one's good enough. Let's go back in here. Now, in the meantime, you got to get another entrance. So you go back to that back side and you open that, you now have a 3rd entrance, okay? So the manipulation sounds confusing, but if you think about what you're trying to do, which is bleed bees off of the top and have them increase the population below, it's really quite a simple concept to grasp and get a hold of. Does that explain it? Does anybody have any questions about this rotating the entrances? Because a lot of people do seem to get confused about it.
Yeah, I'd like to see you run that part again when you do a recap of the whole process, actually. But before that, there's a question someone had about pheromones from the original queen coming up through the board, and why doesn't that disrupt activity with the queen up above, the new queen?
Pheromone is passed by touch. It's not an odor. So for them to get the queen pheromone from the queen below, they would need to be able to touch that queen. And that's the purpose of the double screen board. There's a screen on the bottom and there's a screen on the top, and there's a space in between that's about the thickness of a piece of plywood. And the bees cannot reach through there and make contact. So if you think about it, it's really an ideal setup. You have all these foraging bees down below creating heat that is rising up through the hive to the very top boxes, and that is the hive that is trying to make new queens. So the warmth helps them make even a better queen. Okay, but there is no pheromone transfer between the bottom hive and the top hive.
Okay, and with a single screen, you might get transfer because they're able to touch
Correct.
through a single screen. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, another question is, okay, someone's asking about getting your spreadsheet. So we'll do a bulk transfer. I'll be the intermediary on that.
All right.
And someone's asking when the Snelgrove board is removed, which I guess is when everything comes apart at the end of the process, right?
Right. When you're unstacking everything and you make your nuke with the old queen and you put all the boxes back together to make a new production hive, you're taking the queen excluder off, you're taking the Snelgrove board off, you've just got a straight production hive then.
Okay. And when you do a recap, we'll see that happen. See there. Oh, another question is why do you need 3 entrances? Yeah, why do you need 3 doors? Why wouldn't one work?
Well, let's go over that. It's a good question. So I start out, I open this entrance up here. I have all the original foraging bees that were part of the original hive that leave and return to the entrance they knew before this was all set up, which is in the front of the hive. Okay. After a while, all those bees will be down there and they'll be you going in and out of the entrance. They will not be using this entrance anymore. The only bees that'll be using this entrance are the bees that grew up in this hive since we set up the Snelgrove and matured into foraging bees. And they will be leaving, okay, to forage. Now, if I didn't bleed that population out of this hive up here and have it join the one below, this one up here would get overcrowded and they'd want to swarm, okay? So I let them leave out of here in the morning time. Then I sneak out there, I close their door. I open this bottom door. When they come back at the end of the day or whenever it is they come back, they will go in there and they will join with the queen that has plenty of room down there, the original queen. The minute I go over here and open this one, any of the bees that are foraging bees that are still up here that used to use this entrance over here, they will fly out and they will come over here and go in here also. So you're just bleeding off the mature foraging bees, which is what the hive below needs. You can't do that fooling with just one set of doors. You know, we all know, or I hope we all know, that if I were to rotate a hive 90 degrees, the bees more than likely would not be able to find the entrance. It's that critical. So location is everything for them. Every afternoon around 2 or 3, when you see them out doing their orientation flights in front of the hives, you know, what they're doing is orienting as to where is their entrance, because they always want to be able to get back to what they know their entrance is. And when I confuse them over here by, you know, closing this hive or door and opening this door, they're only confused by a couple of millimeters, you know, less than an inch. And they're like, yeah, okay, fine. Somebody rearrange something, you know. They don't get that they now are going down into the bottom hive, okay. They're accepted just fine, even though they were raised by a queen with different pheromones. You know, if you're a foraging bee and you're bringing stuff back to the hive, guess what? They will let you in. They're not going to turn away if you're bringing good stuff back to the hive. That help?
We hope so. Okay, so I'm not going to ask for specifics at this second, but the timing of manipulating the doors is specific, right? It's at certain point in the process. You probably already mentioned it, but well, okay, so we'll cover that again in a minute or so. But let's see. Another question is, Joan's asking if you're using the long side of the hive for a permanent entrance, not the short side. And if so, does it face the sun? I don't know, Joan, if you want to turn on your mic.
Yeah, I noticed that one of the pictures, it looked like the main entrance, the permanent entrance, not the Snellgrove entrance, was on the long side of the hive.
Yeah, this is something that I picked up from working with Billy Davis. He taught us that running a hive the warm way, in other words, the cold way is when the thin part of the woodenware is facing the entrance, okay? And the frames are in here, and so we call that the cold way. When you rotate the hive like that, okay, so that the long side is facing southeast or the sun, we call that the warm way because the bars in here are now running this way for the frames. It's called the warm way because in the winter time, you have more sun hitting your hive because you have a bigger surface over here, and it theoretically improves the probability for the bees getting through the winter successfully, technically speaking, okay? I don't know that any research has ever been done to prove that. I think it's folklore. I accept it, and I keep my hives the warm way, and they do just fine during the winter.
Do you have custom bottom boards with an entrance? You know, what do you call it? The little deck out front along the long side.
That's a whole nother presentation on my hive bases.
All right, well, let's skip that.
I'm on the 4th generation of them right now, and I can tell you right now, it is way too labor intensive to ever be offered as a commercial product.
Really? Okay. All right. All right. Let's see. Here's another question. Excuse me. When the old queen is put down in the bottom box with seven empty drawn frames and the foragers move down, how do they survive without food for several days?
Well, if you think about it, you've got, in other words, I said, when you go in the hive and you see a queen cell, the bees are not going to make a queen cell unless they've got some nectar flow.
Okay.
You know, there's food out there available for them at that time. That's just one of the givens that you know, that kind of underlies this process.
Okay. Yeah. There won't be any new queens till there's food.
Right. Right.
Okay. All right. Hold on a second. I lost my chat window. Okay. How many of these do you do in a season? Is it one for every hive you've got, or?
With 6 hives, I've done all 6 of them.
Okay.
I've had years where only one of the 6, because of our screwy weather that we have around here, only one of the 6 worked well. Again, I'm kind of pressing the time frames because I have a business need that dictates when I can do it. If you can schedule putting your Snelgrove boards on when you see queen cells, and you know, it's really quite easy to monitor that. 90% of the time in the spring, your queen cells are going to be found on the bottom frames of your top box. So all you got to do is go out there, lift up the box, look on the bottom. If you see any queen cells, you say, okay, get my Snelgrove board, set it up. Okay. Now, granted, there might be a queen cell somewhere else hidden in the hive you missed, and that's, you know, part of beekeeping. But generally speaking, your queen cells are going to be, your swarm cells are going to be on the bottom frames of that top box. So it's really quite easy to go out and check. And the minute you see the queen cells, then go set up your Snelgrove process.
What do the failures look like? How many different varieties of failures are there?
Well, early on, before I realized that I needed 2 boxes on the very bottom with the queen in it, the failure looked like swarm bees hanging in my neighbor's tree.
Okay.
After I got figured out that that was the problem, the failure would amount to the queen, for whatever reason. It can be cold weather, whatever reason that causes the queen to not be able to get mated and make it back to the hive. You know, she can be eaten by the robins. She can, you know, get killed running into the truck windshield. Any number of things can happen to your queen. Or the weather can get cold and she can't go out and fly and get mated. So you've got a young virgin queen running around in your hive, and you know, after a period of time, it becomes too late for her to get mated.
Okay,
So
so
you
all the usual queen rearing things
exactly
that go wrong.
but it's not a disaster because you still got a queen in the very bottom of that hive that you can just put everything back together and move forward. You know, you take out the young virgin queen that's not productive, you get rid of her. But after you've done that, you can merge everything back together and you still got a production hive and you've avoided swarm.
Yep.
And you
Okay.
haven't
So
lost any brood production. So
right. So you didn't get the new nuke, but everything else is good to go.
right.
Okay, that's good. One other question. Oh no, it was a comment that in England they call the hives national hives, and they're all set up the warm way. I don't know if you'd heard that before.
No, I didn't know that.
Okay, that's good.
I don't keep track on English beekeeping. I have a hard enough time keeping track of American beekeeping.
Hell yeah. I'm with you there. Somebody says HSP question mark. I don't know what that is.
SHP,
Oh,
Sustainable Honeybee Program.
oh, maybe that's it. Okay, she said HSP. Okay, Sustainable Honeybee. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you wouldn't mind indulging me, if you could do like a 5-minute synopsis from beginning to end.
Sure.
The process.
So the process is really quite simple. Okay. I get an indication that my production hive early in the spring is getting ready to swarm. That's my key signal. So I go get my Snelgrove board. I get my 2 boxes of drawn comb. I go out there. I take apart my existing hive. I set it off to the side. I go through it. I find the queen. I take the frame that queen is on with the queen on it, and I set it aside. I put down a box on my hive base that has, you know, the first frame box has 7 frames of drawn comb. I put the queen in there in the frame that she's on. I put another box of drawn comb on it. I put a queen excluder on it. I put a couple of honey supers on top of that. I put my Snelgrove board on top of that. Okay. I open an entrance so that they can fly out. Okay. And then I put the original hive on top of all that. So it's really, it doesn't, you know, the hard part is finding the queen, which begs the question to always make sure you've marked your queen in the fall when you're going into the winter, because it makes it a lot easier to find her when you're trying to do this process.
No doubt.
So
So
was that good enough?
yeah, that's good. That's pretty concise. Now, at what point is it days from the beginning, or are you monitoring activity? At what point do you start switching around the doors?
The spreadsheet that I have covers that.
Okay.
You know, and all you have to do is, I keep one spreadsheet for each hive. In that top box where I said the date that, you know, the blue box that said when the date that I created the Snelgrove or I added the Snelgrove, you put a date in that box and the spreadsheet automatically calculates everything else.
Oh, nice.
So you just have to do one entry and that's it.
Great. Okay. Anybody else? We've got time.
Yeah, Mike, I have a quick question. This is Todd. So you stated, Parks, that you are doing this, you're forcing the issue as opposed to waiting for queen cells. Are you finding that you're sometime around February 20 date is good enough for mating with the new queen? Or you're finding enough drones when the queen emerges and is going for mating flight?
No, I use the February date just to show the earliest that I could do it. Okay, that would get me past April 15th. If I can work to wait until that first week in March, I'm much better off. Okay, for the exact reason that you outlined it. I mean, it's, you know, the weather needs to be warm, the availability of drones for the new queens to mate with. Those are all issues that would be beneficial for me to wait as long as I can.
Okay, but you personally, just for your business practices, are not waiting for queen cells. You're forcing the issue.
Most of the time I am. Now, this year I've been downsizing my business. Last year I downsized it by a third. This year I've downsized it by another third. And the whole purpose of that is so that I'll have more time to devote to beekeeping, because I enjoy beekeeping a hell of a lot more than I do taxes.
Yeah, and it pays almost as well too, right?
Almost.
Yeah, for like 40 times the number of hours.
Right.
Oh, let's see. Yeah, so you're actually you want everything wrapping up on tax day, huh?
Well, no, I mean, if I do this, I've got to do it so that I don't have to mess with the bees before April
Yeah.
15th.
Yeah, understood. It's not like everything stops on April 15th, but
Right.
you can take a breather there because now you're into extensions anyway, right?
Well, after April 15th, I wander around for 2 or 3 days trying to figure out what it is I'm supposed to do next, because I've only been doing one thing for several months.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm sure. Can't be that much fun.
No.
Somebody says, oh yeah, somebody says you can make tens of dollars in beekeeping. And somebody else is asking how much honey you're getting from 6 hives.
Normally, I get about 300 pounds per year out of 6 hives. This past year, I got 500 pounds out of 5 hives, and I did something that I had not done before. Again, remember I said I cut down my tax practice so I'd have more time to spend?
Yeah.
Richard Whitlow came over with me one day, and I have a mentee that joined us, and we went through all my hives and we pulled out all the honey frames that were at least 90% capped. The reason I had to do this is all my honey supers were on all my hives. The nectar flow was still going, and I didn't have anything for the bees to use to put away the nectar. So I went out and I harvested capped honey frames, took them down to my basement, extracted them, brought the empty boxes back out and put them back on the hives. Because of that, I made 500 pounds out of 5 hives.
Oh, as opposed to just doing one harvest?
Right.
Yeah. That's what I do too. I don't want to do too many all at once. All I want, 30 frames at one time is about all I want to do. So I'm constantly doing that, but I'm not a tax accountant.
Well, I have a honey room that's set up and sized for somebody that has 150 hives.
Ooh.
I have 6 hives.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, we should all have that problem. Wow. All right, so why don't you tell us about, let's see, make sure that I'm not missing any questions. Tell us more about SHP and tell us about the box dipping program you've got.
Okay, Sustainable Honeybee program is located in Nearsville. We have 2 apiaries. One is at our barn location, which we generally don't publish the address. We just tell people about it because it is a private residence that is allowing us to use 2 of their barns to run our operations out of. And then we have an apiary that has about 24 hives in it right behind that barn. We do not do any honey production. We raise bees. We try to raise, gentle bees that are acclimated to the mid-Atlantic region. And primarily our target audience is new beekeepers so that they can get bees that have a better chance of surviving, in our temperate climate that we have here. The other thing that we do, which is we will do, we've done a full day demo for the Loudon Country Day School 4th grade class. That is a trip. I mean, you think your questions tonight were hard. They give you some hard questions, okay? Very rewarding experience. Last year, we've done that a couple of years now. I think we're doing it again this year. Last year, we did the new beekeepers that graduated from the training program in the DC Beekeepers Association. They came out and had a field day with us, showing them how we keep our hives the warm way. We taught them how to use a quiet box, how to use the quiet cloth covers to keep the bees gentle. We taught them how we keep bees, okay? Ideally, for people to really learn that technique, we need them to come out and work with us a couple of weeks in a row. It takes a while to pick up the techniques, and it takes manpower to keep the operation going, and so we look for volunteers to come out and work with us all the time. Let's see, we have the one apiary right there, operation, and about 2 miles away, we have our original apiary that has, another 20 some odd hives. Each of our apiaries, we have mostly nuke hives, and then we have 4 8-frame hives there for drones, but more importantly for resources. So if we have a hive that is weak, it's much easier to go steal a frame of, capped brood out of an 8-frame hive than it is to try to rob it from another nuke. So we use those 8 frames as resource hives to help us build up. And just like any other bee operation that's not professional, we make all sorts of mistakes. We refer to them as learning experiences, but they are mistakes. And we have a great time. We have a good crew of people that work out there with us, but on any given day, we have 3 or 4. We'd like to have 6 or 8. We're trying to find, a bee club that would like to affiliate with us more. I'm getting old. Richard's getting old. We can't do this forever. So it's time for us to find some people that we can bring on board that are interested in continuing what we do. It's going to take them a while to learn what we do, but it is the best organization that I've ever worked with, because I've been able to learn more about beekeeping, primarily working with Billy Davis when he was alive. But keep in mind, Billy really didn't teach us anything. He just gave us the opportunities to learn a lot of things. And that's what we try to do. And, between Richard, myself, and another guy that worked with us, Kim, between the 3 of us, I think we probably have covered most of the mistakes you can make in beekeeping. Some of them we're better at than others.
And hopefully not too many get repeated too often.
That's the goal,
So is Monday the primary day for volunteering opportunities?
Yeah, we're out there every Monday. Now, we didn't go out there today.
Yeah, so that would be a good day to skip.
Yeah, but we're out there on Mondays. We normally arrive in the spring. We try to get there about 8:30. This time of year, we get there about 9:30 or 10. We try to wrap it up no later than 2 o'clock. So for those of us that have to get back into town, we don't get caught in the traffic. We have one guy that drives from, Southern Maryland to come out and work with us. He's on the road a good 2 hours every Monday.
Wow, well, that's dedicated.
Yeah, and it's a good group of people, which is Like finding a group of 4 or 5 beekeepers that don't argue and can agree on how to do things, that's a pretty unique organization.
It is. I mean, it's tough to have a volunteer organization of any form. So
Right.
it takes a lot of work. And okay, how about the Hive wax dipping thing?
Okay,
that
the
you guys
wax
do?
dipping. We have a wax dipping tank. It's a metal tank that I had made by a welder up in Baltimore that will accommodate at least one 10 frame deep. Okay, and it's filled with a wax mixture, which is 80% microcrystalline wax. And no, excuse me. Yeah, it's 80% paraffin wax. Paraffin wax, I think it is. Yeah, I think it's paraffin wax, and 20% microcrystalline. Okay, we heat it up to a temperature of about 300 degrees, and then we dip woodenware, new woodenware. We don't dip old woodenware because we don't want to pick up the whatever it is that's in your hive bodies, and we don't want the paint chip off into our wax. But we dip them for 10 minutes, and for each 10 minutes of dipping, it boils all the moisture out of that wood at 300 degrees. And when we take it out of that tank, the wax that's on it just gets sucked in and seals it up. I've got hive bodies that I've been using for, 10 years that have no warpage, no deterioration. I mean, they're just as good as, I've torn them up with a hive tool somewhat, but none of the wood has come apart, and I haven't had any warping at all. And we don't have to spend any time at all painting them every year. So it's a real advantage. And what we do is we charge $15 for every dipping session, a 10-minute session. So if you have a deep, that would be $10. If you have a deep nuke, I can only do one of those. So that's a $10 dip. If you have mediums, I can do 2 medium 5-frame nukes. Okay, so that would be a $15 charge for 10 minutes. So whatever we can do for 10 minutes, if you got a bunch of intercovers, we can't put them all in there, but we could probably put in them with some other stuff and make a 10-minute session out of that. We give you a letter that basically says that you paid $2 for the service we provided, and you got a $13 tax deduction since we're a 501c3.
Wow, that's great. Compared to painting time and then not having to repaint, that's really a bargain.
Yeah.
That's great. I wish I had some new woodenware. All right. Anybody have any other questions? You may have worn us out,
Very good.
but at least we've got we've got the video to refer to.
All right.
I'm just going through here to make sure I haven't missed anything. Nope. A few thank yous and congratulations. Everybody's been very happy and attentive. All right, sounds good.
Parks,
If any-
Parks, you might want to give them a phone number to reach you to come out for
Yeah.
visits.
Okay. That's Richard talking. Richard is recovering from COVID-19. Okay.
Oh my
He's
goodness.
Not feeling well. He came out tonight to show his support for what I'm doing tonight. If anybody wants to get a hold of me, my phone number, well, I tell you what, why don't since this is being recorded and we don't know who's going to get that, I'll let you pass out my phone number. You've got it. And you can pass out my email address to anybody that's interested in doing it as well.
Okay, I'll do that.
And we'd really like to see some of you come out and work with us because, we need the help. We think we can help you become a better beekeeper. We've got some things we know that work pretty well. And I think it'll be mutually beneficial.
Sounds good. That's for all the people who are now telecommuting and can sort of work from Nearsville on Monday.
Yeah.
There we
won't
go.
know.
Turn that GPS on your phone off.
Right.
All right. All right. Thanks very much, Parks. I'll be in touch, and
Okay.
I'll probably, I'll ask you for the spreadsheet.
I'll go ahead and mail that to you tonight.
Okay.
I'll give you the password to unlock it.
Okay.
I would suggest that if you're not an Excel spreadsheet, aficionado, don't unlock it because there are a lot of formulas in there that can be messed up.
Oh,
But if
yeah,
you're
yeah.
comfortable
No.
with Excel, go ahead and unlock it. You can change it any way you want to. It doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
What I'm sending you, I know will work.
Yep.
If you use it and you have further questions, feel free to contact me.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon. I'll try to hook up with you on one of these Mondays coming up.
All right, very good. Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night.